All right. Good morning, everyone. This is Mike Bryan again, Youth Engagement Manager for CyberUp. Had a brain fart there for a second. My old job. Today we have with us Tommy Canfield, who is a system engineer at GFI Digital, and he is going to be talking to us about pen testing and offensive security. And Tommy actually is one of our former apprentices who has been through the CyberUp apprenticeship program. So we're really happy to have him volunteering with us and sharing this great presentation with us today. So I will let you take it away, Tommy.
Sure, thank you so much, Mike. So, good morning. My name is Tommy Canfield, and today I'm discussing pen testing and offensive security. About me a little bit, like I said, I am a system engineer at GFI. GFI is a managed service provider, an MSP. So we manage several environments, over 100 environments across Missouri and into Illinois. And so every day is kind of a different day where you learn an insane amount of information in a very quick time frame. I am a cloud practitioner certified. I'm a data technical specialist. I have a few other certifications, but the main ones I got that Security Plus with CyberUp. And so I want to kind of go into depths of where you can go as someone who's an apprentice who can move into better fields. CyberUp helped me get a next step in my career field and let me become a system engineer. So it'll be really cool to kind of explore some of my passions, which is penetration testing, and how you too can get to that point. So a little warning real quick. Any form of pen testing, hacking, or exploring without permission from the company or a user is completely illegal. Everything you learn today is going to be very noisy, meaning everything we do is easily detectable by our firewall, IDS, IPS. So do not try this unless you're using a website specifically designed for testing, which I will show you some resources, or your own home environment, which I'll show you. If you do any of these activities on your own, again, you will be triggering off some warnings somewhere. So don't go resting around unless you're doing those environments I show you. So why is cybersecurity such a hot buzzword right now? It seems like every day a new hack is occurring. We know just recently the government was talking about the massive government attack with SolarWinds. SolarWinds being a third-party vendor. So many companies used SolarWinds for different various reasons. And when the hackers identified this company, they put a malware onto an update, sent it to the companies, and their malware infected multiple systems. And so that happens to a lot of us. Most companies use third-party software, and that's just one example of many examples. Global companies are expected to spend over $12.5 billion in the next 3 years just on cloud computing security, and it's changing every day. You see, especially now with working remotely, we have our phones, we have technology built into our cars, we have technology built into our doorbells. You hear about people hacking people's home cameras and turning on their laptop cameras or the TVs. It's never going away, and it's just getting worse and more complicated, and the hackers are getting smarter and smarter. So this puts a lot of risk towards us, and we really need to be aware, especially as IT professionals, of how we're going to protect our companies, because it might be government espionage. It could be identity theft. Someone maybe wants to just get some monetary gain through a ransomware attack, which is very popular in 2020. It could be maybe your children are playing some video games and playing Minecraft or Roblox, those popular games, and someone hacks those. It's actually very simple to do so. The fact is, hacking isn't going away anytime soon. And so we need to prepare, we need to research, and we need to have a plan on how to support the environments that we're working with. So how do we combat that? What do we do? And that comes into an aspect of pen testing. We're going to talk about also the incident response lifecycle and how they go hand in hand. But let's first define what is pen testing. It's a field that many people aren't aware of. They may hear of hackers, specifically ethical hackers. That's a pretty big buzzword. But pen testing is slightly different. And pen testing focuses on the security of your environment. It has multiple phases where you and another client or company agree on some terms, some rules of engagement, some limits, some scopes of what you're going to do to try to get into that company's network in certain ways. And what you're trying to do is test their environment. Can you get through because they have out-of-date operating systems, or they're lacking updates? Are they running some poor configurations on their hardware? Your job as a penetration tester would be to start to peel back the layers of their defense and see where they're weak and where there might be exploits or vulnerabilities. And an ethical hacker is a little bit different. They're a little bit more broad range. They may be hired to look at a website and hack through that website, or applications, softwares. They're not just security focused. They're more broad in the sense of what they're attacking. And that gives two really cool fields. And then penetration testing also has a third, and my personal favorite, and I would love to get into this field, it's very difficult, is physical pen testing. Physical pen testing is where you're actually hired to go onto companies' sites either during hours or after hours and social engineer your way into the company, or break in after hours and see how you can physically get on site to plant devices, steal data, steal items. And that's a very cool field, but it's very, very few and far between to find those jobs. And you can have different types of pen testing. You can have black box, white box, and gray box. Black box meaning that you're going into an environment and you know nothing about it. You're just going blind. You just know the company's name is who you're going to test. You might do a white box where you might know everything about that subnet you're attacking or the entire company you're attacking. And then there's that gray box. You may be going to a company where they say, hey, this is the IP range and subnet we're looking to go for. Maybe we just want you to test our servers. And that's going to be more on a specific level. We only want this, and then don't go into these areas. So, well, when it comes to pen testing, why would we need a pen test? Why would we need someone to go through that? Well, because we want to build our incident response lifecycle plan. We want to have a plan in place of how our company reacts when an incident is occurring, or even how to identify an incident. And so we're going to talk about preparation. Maybe you have a company and they know there are some hacks out there, some nefarious actors that are going to attack your company. Well, what do I want to do to protect myself? Well, you need to prepare. So you might have, there's going to be two phases to this. You might begin by saying, all right, how do we respond? How do we have a plan? Who does what? Do we all just throw things at the wall and hope they stick? Or do we have certain people doing certain roles? Do we have mission time critical objectives? Are we going to be just booting everything back up at once? Or can we just be down for 5 days? What happens to our company? What's the impact by that attack? And how do we mitigate that as much as possible? And the other side of preparation is going to be where pen testing really applies is our network prepared against an attack? Because the best defense is an offense. Are we using the best practices? Is our networking gear hardwired and hardened appropriately, configured appropriately? Are we using an IDS, an IPS, firewalls? What is in our system? Do we have a SIEM? Are we protecting against that? Are we monitoring? Are we actually looking for it? We know web is a huge way of malware getting in, emails. Are we protecting against this and monitoring those avenues of attacks? And that's really important. So say all of a sudden we get an attack, we see an incident, we have our preparation in place, but something wonky comes. Well, how do we detect what's wonky? What do you know? And that should be your attack vectors should already be monitored, and you're going to watch for anomalies. You might have a baseline in your company, being that you know how your company typically is acting in the traffic that's coming through different channels that are operating certain ways, and you're going to be measuring that. And all of a sudden you might see, well, hey, we're getting a company-wide strange email, or hey, I'm getting some strange traffic through an SSH port or trying to communicate to an SSH port that shouldn't be open. What is happening? You might start seeing these strange behaviors because you're monitoring. And so when you analyze and you see that, well, okay, we see it, we know it's happening. This is an indicator of intrusion, and we need to start gathering as much data as possible. When did it start? Where is it? What machines are affected? Is it reaching to a machine that talks to the server, or is it just a laptop that's a home computer that maybe doesn't have access? What is the level that this is going to start impacting? So we need to start gathering every bit of detail we can. Maybe we're packet capturing on that. Maybe we're doing some log analysis to really dive deep into where this problem is occurring before we start to look at containing. And then say, all right, well, we identified Joe Snuffy here has his computer. He clicked a link in his email, and we're actually going to go into a real example in a minute about that. He clicked a link in his email, and his computer has been infected with malware. Well, we need to remove that computer from the internet immediately, and we need to do a network scan. So we need to determine, is this the only computer affected? Yes. Okay. Take them from the internet and let's analyze that. Look into that vector a little bit more. And to give you an example, I was working in Springfield, Missouri, about a month ago, and I was doing some cover down for a company for a week. While there, I got an email from an employee upstairs who's a higher up employee that he had a strange email, and he clicked inside the link that was presented. And so I said, okay, let me take a look. And he sent me the email, and I looked at the email, and lo and behold, it was a UPS request for a package delivery and confirmation. Well, okay, that seems kind of weird. I reached out to their point of contact and said, hey, does UPS usually reach out to you just as a basis? She says, no, they never reach out to that group of people. They only reach out to me for packages. Okay, that's strange. Well, let's look into the email a little bit more. So you can do different ways. You can put it on a non-network computer. You can put it into a VM. You can look at that email in a safe environment. And so sure enough, it was a spoofed email. It looked very legitimate. They did a great job of making it look real, but it definitely was not. You can tell by the logo and the sending email address that was slightly off. And so, okay, now we know we have spear phishing occurring. They're going for someone a little higher up there. They're identifying someone. I wouldn't say it was whaling just quite yet, but it was definitely identified to a specific person. Well, then I told the POC, hey, we have this. We need to put this message out. Let everybody know. You may see a weird email. If you see it, put it in spam folder, tag me, and let me know in Teams. We have this going on. And so we were able to gather some information and find out that only a specific group of, I think it was like 6 or 7 people had received that email, and they just all happened to be in a group on Office 365. So somehow someone had gotten information about their Office 365 group and started sending them spear phishing emails. And so we were able to easily just go, okay, we've looked at this, we've contained it, we know it's here. What is the level of effect? Well, it turned out that user did not click on the link, thankfully. He only clicked on the email. So cool. Now we don't have to worry too much. We've still got to do a complete network scan to make sure there's nothing funny in there. You can, even if it was infected, even run a backup and pull all that information off and say, nope, we're going to cut it. We're just going to do a backup and remove any possible effect. But there wasn't any effect. He didn't click on anything. Perfect. And his computer also didn't have access to server materials, which is also very good. So we had contained that device. We recovered the device. We removed that email and made sure he was aware that this is a problem. You shouldn't be clicking on emails. Definitely don't open them and click on the links inside of them. And then to prevent that from occurring, that email chain was then targeted in the firewall. We blocked all traffic from it, and we documented. All right, so we've contained, we've recovered, we've eradicated the issue, and now we have prevented it from ever coming through. However, the original portion of the attack came from that Office 365 group being it was obviously found out somehow. So we're going to remove that group. We're going to create a new group, and we're going to change some settings in Office 365. Once all of that is said and done, it took about a whole day. At the end of that day, we were able to create just a nice report. And as a company, we use IT Glue, and we document everything. So all engineers have access to those files, and we're able to say, hey, this is what happened. This is what was done. This is what we prevented, et cetera, et cetera. And we're able to pass that information to everybody. So everybody knew what happened, and we were able to track it. We also passed it to the point of contact and let her know, hey, maybe we should do some further training. And so this is where the life cycle becomes a life cycle, because this period ends, but we're not done. Now we're going to go all the way back into preparation. Well, now we need to make sure that this doesn't become a problem. It almost was a problem, but it wasn't, thankfully. What do we do? Well, we need to make sure that we start training. We shouldn't have our employees clicking things and unaware that, hey, that might cause an issue. So let's make sure we do some training, we talk about it, we keep our firewall up to date, our whitelists, our blacklists are looking good, and we're not having any more nefarious characters coming through that way. And so kind of that post-incident activity really gave us information and insight into how we can be more prepared to prevent an issue. How we can definitely keep preventing, because we were able to prevent this time by luck. Let's make sure that next time it's not luck. Next time it's effective methods of preparation. And then, we documented, and we were able to, by using that life cycle, we were able to communicate effectively. It guided me through how we should have attacked this issue, and we were able to prevent any users who received that from clicking and possibly infecting the environment, and we were able to give it away. And this company deals with a lot of high-level cases. I won't say what they do, but they deal with a lot of important details, and for them to get hacked would be a very big deal. So they are definitely a higher target, and we didn't want that to happen. So every company is going to need this incident response lifecycle. It really defines who's doing what. In this case, I knew what I was doing because I already knew who the point of contact was supposed to be. I knew what I was supposed to do from the person I was covering down on and how I dealt with these types of issues. We had a sit down beforehand to talk about different ways of mitigating any risk that was coming through the firewall, made sure I was well versed on that specific firewall and how we handled it and had the credentials to get in. So we had that communication effective, and we knew what we were doing. And so in a bigger company, it's really important that management dictates roles and who's going to be doing what and how they're going to be doing it. And that's really important. In another case, I dealt with a company where they had a huge ransomware attack, and it was specific to my role to go through and remove a certain bit of permissions. What it is, effective permissions. I was supposed to remove any malware scripts that were removing permissions from that ransomware attack. And so I didn't get the full 360. I didn't see everything. I only saw my little portion. My role was this. It was clearly defined. I was told exactly what to do. I was given a script to run, and I was to do these companies. And so you'll see different levels of that response life cycle and how you're going to be attacking issues. And throughout your career, you're going to have different rules in how you do things depending where you are. And so learning this is going to be very important. And so, well, how do I learn this? Where do I learn this? I've never heard from this. This is foreign. What do I do? Well, there's a really good, amazing resource to learn this. That is, if my slide will go next, National Institute of Standards and Technology. NIST, if any of you have been through a course with CyberUp, you've probably already heard of this. If you've done CompTIA Plus or any of those courses, you've heard of them. And they're a widely accepted resource for technology. They create uniform guidelines for cyber companies and tech companies to follow to make sure that we're all kind of, like I said, uniformly doing the same steps in similar manners to handle incidents. Not every company is going to do the same thing, but they're going to do similar things. And that might help a healthcare system or a law system who they have specific guidelines, policies, laws they have to follow, like HIPAA. We all know HIPAA. So in order to properly ensure our environment safe and protected to meet those laws, NIST has some really good recommendations. They are also ones, at least from my understanding, I don't know if they directly created it, but they are the ones that have the ultimate guide for the incident response, and one that's where I follow. It's where I've learned it, and it's where I really research for my best practices how to handle the cybersecurity framework, which is great. Framework you should take a look at. And so I included the link here below if you guys want to copy that, paste that later, or it'll be in the very last slide. I have some resources. But if you're going to be in this field, you should start visiting NIST at least once a week, really start reading up on some of the important guides they have and understand how you can best protect your environment. So moving on, we're getting to the fun part. How does pen testing work? We're going to talk about how someone does a pen test, and then we're going to do one. I'm going to show you guys a live pen test. Now, granted, as I warned before, don't copy me. You can do this in a certain way. And I decided I was going to launch my own virtual boxes for them to attack each other, but I decided I wanted to give you a tool that you can use. And so I have a website where you can go on and they provide you virtual machines that you can use to attack each other following some guides they give you. They'll give you a challenge, and it's your job to figure out that challenge. And you can actually follow some videos. They give you some explanations of how to do that, but you can actively attack virtual boxes legally. And so we're going to use that in a couple of minutes. So we'll talk about the phases of a pen test. This will differ per company. Every company may do it differently. The scope of the practice of what they're doing might be different, but you may see different versions of this. There's plenty of different versions. This is the one I like to use when I'm doing work. And phase one is pre-engagement. Pre-engagement is going to be, I would say, 80% of what you're going to do. This is where, or not, I'm sorry, like 30% of what you're going to do. This is where you're talking to the client. You're discussing the rules, the scope, where you can go, where you can't go, the tools you're allowed to use, what hours of business you're allowed to start tagging stuff. Are you allowed to social engineer? How can you social engineer? Can you just walk into the building and ask questions? Do you just call? Are you working remotely? Are you able to send a DDoS attack, or are we not allowed to take certain servers down because it affects the company? What can we do? What do you want us to attack? And this is a very long lawyer process. It's going to require a lot of legality to ensure that no one is put in a compromised position. Once those scope and limits are documented and you are aware of what you're going to be doing, You're going to begin phase 2, which is recon. This is where you spend a good 80% of your time. You're going to be doing a lot of OSINT, or open source intelligence, which is just Google. You can Google a company. You can say, I want to Google, say, company A hires me, and I want to Google them. I want to learn a little bit about them. We're going to do a little bit of that in a second. I want to see, maybe I want to look at the public IP. So I could do something very basic. This is a very simple tool. So you can see that. Does that pop into my screen? Can you guys see a command prompt? Perfect. So say I want to just learn some basics. So we're going to use a very public server. Using this tool is not illegal at all. You can do this. You can just do, I'm just going to look up this company. I want to see, maybe I want to look up what their IP address is. You can resolve what that is. Oh, look at that. I found an IP address. Cool. You can do it in the reverse. I want to see, maybe I only have an IP address. I want to see, is there a website related to this? I don't know. You can start doing some research and gathering and finding out. So, hey, look, I have some information here. Do have, all right, cool. We see a server, we get an address, we have some basic information. And this is just a simple ICMP recon, basic stuff. So say I determine that IP address I've gotten, oh, wow, it is a website. I'm gonna look this website up. I wanna do some cool work. So we're gonna go to that website. In this case, we're not gonna go to Google. We all know what Google is. So instead, I'm going to go to a really cool, well-known hacking website that you can use to attack. If it will load for me, there we go. So now I found, wow, they have a website. This website's made for web hacking. You can exploit this all day long. There's a bunch of bugs on here. It is a cool website. But let's pretend this is the company I'm hacking. So, I've landed on their website. I really want to learn who works for this company, what they do. Do they have an HR page that explains maybe they're looking for an IT manager and they talk about some of the softwares they use, or they have engineers and it discusses some of the softwares they use for that company. We can start kind of breaking down what they do and how they do it and what might be in that environment. And you can start saying, well, I know that they're using, maybe they're an engineering company. They use AutoCAD. Okay, well, AutoCAD's probably gonna be sitting on a server somewhere. Where would it be? So maybe we know we have a server. Okay, are they having other programs? Do they have multiple servers? We can start kind of deducing what's going to be in that environment. And then, of course, everybody and their mother has all their social media links posted. You can't exist if you don't have social media. Well, cool. I want to know who works for this company. Let's go check out LinkedIn. I'm not logged into LinkedIn, so oh, look at that. It does go right to his page. So boom, goes right to the CEO page. I know who runs this company. Look at that. And this could tell me all about him. I know he's in Belgium. I know he's some certified stuff. That's awesome. He's a pen tester. So we've learned a lot from him. We know this guy. Well, they probably have a LinkedIn page just for the company too, and we can go and find that. Maybe we want to scroll down and find, a lot of times they'll post who works for them. Maybe we'll see some people listed as working. I can't see everything because I'm not logged in, but you'll see people that work for that company, people who visited that company. We can start seeing some of their employees. Oh, they have a Facebook. Of course they have a Facebook. Why don't I look at their Facebook? Wow. All right, cool. Let's see what they have. They have some followers. They have some check-ins. They have some phone numbers, some emails. And so I take that a step further. Maybe I find a username, again, Joe Snuffy, that works for this company. And I go to his Facebook and surprise, he loves to put everything about his life on Facebook. And I see he just bought a house. Oh, cool. Well, I'm going to give Joe Snuffy a call and I'm going to use the realtor or the bank he used because that's public information. And I'm going to imitate or impersonate one of those members. And I'm going to tell him I need some information about his house loan or whatever I need to get from him. And I can start gathering information and I can social engineer him and I can steal some data and I can start looking at ways to get into his company. Or maybe I find out I get his username, which we'll do later, and I want to look at his password. Well, a lot of times I can go, I forgot my password, and they'll have answers. They'll ask you a question. What was your mother's last name? Unfortunately, people put real answers, and those real answers can be found right in their Facebook. What is my dog's name? I'll go to his Facebook and find its spot. Type it in. I just did a forget password. Now I've sent a forgot password to his email or whatever I'm doing to get his password, and I can start breaking down users and learning. So this would be kind of that recon phase, like I was saying. You're going to want to explore and start learning all about them, social media, social engineering, but at no point here are we touching their environment. We don't do any touches here yet. And like I said, that's why we spend most of our time here. But now, say we figured some stuff out. We know some stuff and we want to touch the company. We want to get in there and we want to do a little bit of work. And we want to explore. So I have two versions of Kali Linux up. So I have the real Kali Linux, which we'll explore at the end. And then I have a modified version of Kali Linux. This is based off TryHackMe.com. This is a fantastic website that gives you scenarios that teach you pen testing. They'll give you ways to do it. Mine's a little bit different. I cut it down for time, so I did some different softwares and some different scans. But it looks a little like this. And so they give you some cool exploration you can explore through. I've gone through this before a long time ago, and I answered all the questions. So they'll ask you some cool questions on how to do stuff. You launch your own machine, which you can see here. I have a VM that we're attacking, and you launch your attack box. You can do a lot of cool stuff. And I've already prepped ahead of time for this. And this is going to give you some answers of how you can test. So I'm going to close this. And we're going to attack this machine. So now we know some stuff. All right, cool. We know the company's IP address, which was the NS lookup we did, maybe. That'd be the address. That's the website we're attacking. Cool. Well, I'm going to use obviously a different website because I have this attack box here and it has its own IP address. Where did I put the IP address? There it is. Cool. So we have our IP address. Well, I want to do a basic scan of this company. I want to look at them and maybe I just want to learn, is that company even online? I wonder. So I'm going to use Nmap. Nmap is it's a well-known tool and it's one of my favorites. And it's going to let us scan that environment for a lot of different things, for open ports. It's going to let us see if the IP address is awake. Is it alive? Can we talk to it? And it's going to give us some information of how we can start looking at that company. So we're going to use Nmap and we're going to just look up, is that IP address even online? So SP is going to ping it to see if it's actively online. I need to pull up the websites. Gotta pull up this IP address right here. It changes every time, of course. 10.197.6. So hey, is this thing live? What's the point of hacking something if it's not live? It's not on. Oh, look at that. It's alive. Host is up. Very quickly, we can even see where it's hosted. Of course, it's looks like possibly AWS or Azure. Possibly it's a cloud-based VM because we're using VMs. But yeah, it's alive. Okay, cool. It's hosted. We can do something with that. I can talk to that. Let's scan it. Let's see what's open on this device. So we're going to use a really simple scan. And this scan is going to allow us to look at some ports. There are some way more complicated scans. Some of them can take 30 minutes, an hour to complete. We don't need to scan that long. We just want some basic information because we're looking for some simple answers. And we're going to look, and this is going to go through that company. It's going to see some ports. Again, this is very noisy. This is not a stealthy scan. If they have a good firewall, this will pick up immediately and stop them. So cool. We've gone in and we see, oh, wow, okay. So we did a basic scan of some ports, and there are thousands of ports. So this scan's only doing a small portion, those common ports. And we see a couple things are open. So we see port 22 is open, SSH. Well, that's not good. We can attack that. We can log in with SSH. So we need to find some user credentials to log in. Who can log in? We see, hey, this has a website. All right, cool. We know this has a website at this IP address. We're going to visit that website. We have a couple other things. We have Samba running. We have Apache Tomcat. We have a couple other things running that we're be interested in. We're not going to be worried about these things at all for this one. We're just going to be worried about port 22 and port 80, strictly for time. So let's navigate back to that website. Now, of course, we went to the Google website and that hacking website to explore, but in this example, we're going to be exploring, maybe we found another IP address that is an internal website or some kind of website that you have to be in the network to see. Who knows? So let's explore that website. I've never been to this website before. What's there? So we get a little quick splash page. This page doesn't exist. It's undergoing maintenance. We've been stopped. What are they doing? Well, if you take some classes in TryHackMe or any kind of bug bounties or playing capture the flag specifically, you'll know always inspect your page source. And this tells us what's on the underlining, what's building that page. And so we see nothing useful at all, except for this. Check our dev notes section if you need to know what to work on. Now, if you're well-versed in pages or directories of websites, you can probably figure where this leads you really, really quick. But say you're new and you don't really understand what this is meaning. Well, we know that websites have pages. For example, this is going to be the same as going to the index, the same page. Oh, not on this one. Oh, I messed it up. But we know that this will lead us back to the main page if we were to search for it. So it just leads us back to that home page. That's just another way of listing that directory. But there could be other directories. You know, when you log into Facebook, you have a directory that's you. You can, after that .com, get a / and some directory of where information is stored on that server. Well, all websites have those. Not all of them are supposed to be public, but sometimes websites don't do a good job of hiding it. They leave something open by accident. We're going to search for that. We're going to see if any of those well-known names are open. And you could use a list. I have this list right here, directory list. This is a dictionary of words that might be common: images, index, download. These might all be common to a website. We're not going to run this because as you can see, it's massive. And this is small in comparison to others. This will take a very long time. So instead, we're just going to run a quick scan with the common defaults. So we're going to think called dir buster. It's a directory buster, which means it's just going to attack against the directory by running all possible options and seeing what exists. So we'll run dir b, and we're going to put in the address of what we want to attack. We want to attack this website 10.10.197.6. I want to know, does this website have any, and look at that, it's already picking them up. Does this have any directories that I can exploit and look at? Well, yeah. Let's see the first one, development. Hey, that page said something about dev notes, didn't it? The development page seems to be a real thing. That's probably something important. You see the index, we already know where that leads us. And we have service status. Okay, well, let's explore this development one. What does this do? I wonder. Well, let's open this link, see where it goes. And there we go. So we are now on an internal page of that website with some text files. We're able to find something that we shouldn't be able to find. This shouldn't exist for us to see, but it does. And this is something they're storing some information to communicate to each other, and now we're seeing it. All right, well, let's see what's in here. Explore a little bit. And so summarizing this doesn't give us much. We just see the name K and J, some names that we don't know who they are, but this page gives us some information. We see that for J, a K has been auditing contents of etc. shadow. That means there's a folder somewhere on their server called etc. shadow. And that has weak credentials there. That must mean there's passwords there. And we also know by this that J is not doing a good job of keeping a good password. K has figured out he has a horrible password. He needs to change it. But we know users. I doubt he's changed it. So J seems like a weak target. Let's attack J, but I don't know who J is. J is just an initial. We need to know if this is a real user. Is this someone that actually exists? What is his full name, etc.? So we're going to use a thing called enumeration. Enumeration gathers a lot of information about an environment. It can gather group policies, printers, and give us users, which is what we want to do. So we're going to do, again, a very short version of that. We're just going to look to see if this directory, since it's exposed, hey, do you have anything that matters to me? Oh, it would help if I wrote the entire command out. And it would help if I spelled it correctly. So we're going to enumerate that. We're going to go through and it's going to run. Now, if this is a bigger environment, this would take a while, but this is, of course, a pre-built, prefabbed environment situation. So it's going to find our answers for us. This is not this easy, I promise. It is much more complicated to do this process. But we see right there already that we have two Unix users. There's our J and there's our K. Cool. Well, we know Jan has a horrible password. We need to see if we can crack his password. Can we attack Jan with a dictionary attack to brute force our ways in? Now, of course, a lot of environments have password policies that after you input 3 failed passwords, it stops. There are a lot of ways to prevent a brute force attack, but I don't think this company is doing that because They have a lot of public information, and it's a prefab environment, so we know it's going to be easy to crack. So we're going to use another technology. There is a million of them, and I'll show you at the end. We're going to use a thing called Hydra. Hydra is a brute force attack. So what we use Hydra, we need to identify, hey, our login and Jan. It may be his first and last name. Usually a lot of companies use that, and you could have found that out from Facebook. Jan could have been J Clementine. It would have been J Clementine would be his username. Get attacked that way. We're going to use password. Okay, well, we want to use this folder right here. Rocky.txt. This comes with, we'll cancel. I moved it, so it doesn't like that I moved it. But this has all kinds of passwords that are known. There's, I think, like 20,000 in there. This takes forever to run. We're not going to wait for it to run because we're limited on time. So we want to go and see, hey, use this. And we're going to, I have my computer right here, .txt for the file. I want you, Hydra, to test the username Jan for all of these passwords. And this is going to take forever. It's not liking that I moved Rocky. Doesn't like that I moved the text. That's the wrong one. I moved it. All right, so we're having a little bit of issue with the VM. It's not recognizing when I move the folder. So you can kind of see them, they're having an issue with this. I don't like it. Blah, blah, blah. Virus, let the code coding, blah, blah, blah. All right, yeah, we're getting an issue because I moved it. That's fine. When you run Hydra, this will run through all kinds of passwords. And this we wouldn't be able to show anyways because it takes forever. But it's going to test every word in that list that we specify here, this directory pathway, against Jan. And it's going to test them all and tell us which one works. And from this test, we would discover that Armando is his password. He has a very poor password, and Armando would work. All right, well, we've learned that Hydra was able to brute force attack and gave us the password Armando. Well, what do we do with that? Well, we know that we can SSH it to their environment, don't we? Because they have SSH open and open to the public for some reason. So let's attack SSH. I've not memorized his password yet. 6. So I want to get in and saying, hey, this can't be established. Are you sure you want to continue? Yeah, of course I want to continue. I want to get in. And it's going to ask for his password. Well, I know it's Armando. I am now into their network. I'm into their system. I'm into Jan's computer, his file, his directory. I have access to everything. Cool. Let's see what he's got going on, should he? Nothing. Jan has nothing. That's rude. Well, that kind of sucks. We want to explore, but there's nothing in this directory. Okay, well, let's see if we can see any redirect permissions going. Oh, look at that. So we see that Jan could read this file less HST. Let's see if we can open that. Can we open that? Did I spell HST? Can we open that? I spell it wrong. LSSH. Oh, E. I literally cannot type today, guys. Sorry. Oh, denied. I can't do that. Okay. That sucks. Well, let's see what a home directory's got going on. Is there anything in the home directory? Oh. Well, I see the other user, K. Well, K's doing it. What is K doing here? Can we go into K's folder? Do we have access to his folder? We do. I'm in K's folders now. Let's see what K's got going on. And we come out to find out that K has a pass.bak. Of course, in this environment, we can't look at that. There's no way. Of course not. We're denied. Of course. And this lesson does go further on, and we're not going to go because of time crunch, but this could go further, and you actually will crack that password. And you would find that we would go and we'd start looking. Remember, we talked about that folder they had mentioned on the website. It's never this easy. Oh, so that won't work. You got to go here. Okay. This is a thing. Look at that. And we list, and we're going to find a million things. And we're just going to keep exploring. Undetected. In this situation, we would be detected. But doing it the correct way, we would be undetected and we would start listing. We see a password right there. We want to open the password and we would start learning some things about them. And that's kind of how you're going to attack. A simple way of how pen testing works. We recon, we start getting that Nmap and laying out what vulnerabilities exist using Nmap to find out some operating systems, and we're going to start attacking piece by piece each thing. So maybe Jan goes nowhere from here. Maybe this is the max of Jan. I know that it does lead to K, but maybe this was the max. And all right, well, we're done with Jan. What's next? Who do we pivot to? Do we pivot to K? We would pivot to K, and then we do the same thing for K. We start exploring, what does K have? What can K do? Can we get K's passwords? Can we get K's password to that pass.bak? We can. And you would keep pivoting and finding users until you found a user that would allow you to get into the server and have elevated access and privileges, and you start attacking more and more. And then you'd write this into a report, and then you'd present to the company saying, this is what we were able to do. And then that's kind of scary. And so that's a virtual machine system from, like I said, TryHackMe.com. Simple, kind of fun example of how you can do a penetration test. Like I said, here's the website. This is a free website. You can explore it if you want. There are also paid versions. You don't need to do the paid version. It just gives you longer time on your VMs to explore. But you can do this basic pen testing course. It's a whole course lined out. It tells you how to do web exploitations, Wi-Fi cracking, all kinds of fun things. But you want to do it safely, and this is the way safely to do it. And then to finish this portion up, I wanted to show you guys, like I said, the demonstration for TryHackMe. So how do I become a pen tester? What am I going to do? And we're going to our last two slides here. How do we do this? How do I get into this? How did I get into this? Well, I mean, first, those websites, tryhackme.com is a great place to practice. It's free and you don't have to spend a bunch of money on courses that may not give you the full picture or only give you a partial picture. You can get your first certification like CompTIA A+. That will help you land your first job, and experience is king. What I do is specifically a great example of how, because every day I see companies, I see how their environments are built, I see common weaknesses, password issues, I see server configuration issues all the time, how switches are set up, how they do their companies. And I see, and I have a great plethora of tools of what I know is common mistakes that companies make, and how do I start attacking immediately, and how I can get in. And it's scary that I could actually probably get into a lot of companies very quickly unless they want to up their security game, which of course we make recommendations to do so. So it allows you to start learning the commonalities between these companies. And then you can go out and get several certifications. GIAC is a really well-known one, but they're very expensive. ISA CA is the same way. CompTIA A+, Net Plus, Sec Plus. Of course, if you're not already enrolled in the cyber program, you better apply, because you can get some amazing knowledge. And then cloud security, Microsoft security admins, things like that. But the big one I'd highly recommend is using Hyper-V or VirtualBox or VMware and install your own real Kali Linux. Kali Linux is an amazing tool that looks like, it looks like this. This is a VM I'm running on my computer, so it's a virtual computer inside a computer. And it has all these tools pre-installed for you. It has the Nmap we used, it has the enum, it has Burp Suite, which is a fantastic tool. And it's just full of things: Medusa, Ncrack, Hashcat. So there's a lot of softwares, and no, I don't know all of them at all, but you start learning those basic ones, the ones you want to use. And that's where you want to start. You want to install this and start messing around with some of these tools, social engineering toolkits. But again, before I end this, ensure anytime you are messing around, you do it completely legally. Hacking is fun. It is amazing. It's a super fun time, but it's fun when you're doing it legally and you're getting paid to do it. That's when it's fun. So here are some resources I have up on the screen. If you guys want to look forward into it more, TryHackMe. Kali Linux is where you can get and install the Kali Linux VM. Hacksplaining, ExploitDB are really great. Hacksplaining just gives you some more information how to get into it and different techniques. Exploit-DB is actually some well-known found exploits by the local community where they post, and you can use that to kind of look into your environments and ensure that you don't have exploits. And then the last one is penteststandard.org, some different information about pen testing and standards in that organization. And that is it. Any questions? sharing. Oh,
Does anyone have any questions for Tommy? You can write them in the chat box if you don't feel like speaking up, and I will read it out.
that's a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Right?
Try to keep it as basic as possible, though. And if anybody's interested, if anybody wants to learn any of this stuff, feel free to shoot me a message on LinkedIn of how to get started on maybe installing some of this stuff.
Here you go. How long did it take you to get to your position right now, Tommy?
Oh, great question. So I have a kind of a peculiar story. I started about a year and 4 months ago in IT altogether. I had surgery on my ankle and I couldn't move at all for an entire month. I had before that built my own PC and played around and knew some IT stuff more than the average person, but I was nowhere near an IT professional. And so when I was down from surgery, I decided, my Army career was ending in a year and I really want to do something different. And my friend told me computers and he loved his job and had a great time. So I just started learning. I started packing down. I got my cloud certification my first month. And then I was like, I'm hooked. I love computers. And I spent, while I was recovering doing physical therapy, I really couldn't do much because I was recovering. So I just studied every night. And I highly recommend an hour a night is the perfect way to learn these things, like Nmap, spend an hour a night. And that's what I did. Especially for pen testing, I would do an hour a night. And again, I don't use some of those tools. I do use Nmap. I do use at work. I don't use a lot of other tools, specifically because I'm not attacking these companies. I just use them to gather information when I'm doing things. But then I spent 6 months at a help desk, really learning, and I highly recommend if you're just starting out, help desk is the best place. You get beat up by insane questions and you learn so much. And from that help desk, I really learned a lot of information. And then I was very lucky with where I work. They decided to take a chance on me, even though I was still kind of green. I had some experience, but not much. I did some computer stuff with my Army job, but it really wasn't that much. And they saw that I was learning quickly and I was doing things. They took a shot at me. And so I'd say in the first 8 months of my career, I was able to get this position and start. And I will say MSP life is not for everybody. You always hear the whole term, drinking from a fire hose in the Army. Well, times that by 10, and that's an MSP. You're expected not only to learn a technology in about 5 minutes, but to fix it that day as well sometimes. And it can be very difficult because you may go see a firewall that you've never touched before, and they're like, hey, you got to fix it. So you're in an environment you don't know anything about, and you got to fix it that day. And you're like, all right, Google for 5 minutes, learn about this device. Okay, cool. I know my basics. I know my routing. All right, let's get to work. And so it's just taking that chance and just showing you're eager to learn. A lot of companies want you to know some basic good technical skills, but a lot of companies are looking for people who work hard and really want to learn. If you're willing to learn, you show that, and you show you can do the troubleshooting, then you're going to do really well in this field.
Great answer. Anybody else have any other questions for Tommy?
I'll pull up my LinkedIn account while I'm at it. LinkedIn. And like I say, if maybe you want to just practice with the stuff, you want to learn some of this stuff, you can shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'd love to give you some resources of maybe some videos of how to install Catalytics. That is not an easy process at all, especially if you're new. I'll find my LinkedIn. There we go. All right. So I'm going to post that in the chat. No other questions? Everybody's penetration pros already.
Right? Just from that one presentation, everybody learned everything.
Alrighty.
All right, folks, if no one has any questions, then we will go ahead and wrap up. Before I go, I always plug our Power Up Cyber Games, which is a monthly capture the flag competition series for middle school and high school students. You can find information on our website under youth programs for the Power Up Cyber Games. We have a season currently in progress right now. It's not too late to join the rest of that season if you're interested. Feel free to shoot me an email or email the info on the website but my email address is mike@wecyberup.org. That's in the chat now that you can so you can see that. Yeah, we are also on social media, and you can find us on social media as @wecyberup. That's our handle for social media. So we love to hear from people on our posts and have people share things with us. So feel free to send any kind of good stuff that you find our way, or comment or like our posts. We love interacting with people over social media. Tommy, thank you so much for your presentation today. That was extremely in-depth, very useful. I think you presented a lot of tools and a lot of great information that people can actually make use of and have a good understanding of now, whereas before they were probably pretty confused as to what those things were. So thank you for your time today. I appreciate you doing such a thorough job of explaining everything. It was really in-depth and really helpful. And hopefully in the future, we'll have an opportunity to have Tommy join us again for another webinar. But we do have webinars scheduled out, 2 for February, 2 for March, and 2 for April. And you can find that information on our Eventbrite. If you go to Eventbrite and look up CyberUp, then you can find all of the listings for all of the upcoming webinars. So again, I'd like to say thank you, Tommy, again for your great presentation, and audience, thank you for joining us today for this webinar. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording and log off, and you guys have a great day.